Hello, welcome to the LHC. To begin, press your own nose now.
Hold it down for 3 seconds and then insert this paperclip into your ear.
Eesh.
I know, even thinking about it. But yes, Hello, welcome back. Today we're talking for the second time about The Good Place Season 2.
Indeed. Now, we were stopped right in the middle of my 3 favourite episodes. Before, we were talking about the trolley problem, and now we move on to Janet and Michael. Now, this is ostensibly a bottle episode. It's supposed to be in the way that it's written, it's a bottle episode because it takes place pretty much entirely in Michael's office. And he, other than some flashbacks, and we pretty much stay there and Michael and Janet just talk about their relationship and about what's happening and about how to solve it because Janet is glitching and causing problems. Now, while it is a bottle episode in terms of its writing, considering it has like one massive 360-degree effects shot and some of the best effects work in the season, it's kind of, I guess it's not any cheaper. Maybe it's a bit cheaper because you could film it mostly all in one day, but it just feels like it probably wouldn't be any cheaper of an episode. Do you not think? Because of all the stuff that has to happen in it.
I mean, this is part of the thing with this show as well, is it's only a 13-episode series, each series, or 12, or however many there are. But it's it certainly isn't lacking in budget. And one thing that it does do is it doesn't really feel constrained by its budget either.
Well, it doesn't need to be like...
It does a lot of effects and... Hell, they get like props in of ridiculous stuff. Like, they have quite a few animal props in at certain times. Yeah. They have a lot of CG. They have, as you say, huge sweeping shots and big sets and all of that sort of thing, as well as a train.
Yeah. Well, I just like that episode where everything just disappears and it's just this big rotating thing. I mean, I know essentially they just have to stand in a green screen and rotate a camera around them. But still, that's a whole separate setup. You're doing that at a different stage. You're not doing that in the actual set. It's like, that must be just a bit more of a problem. But anyway, it seems that the problem in this episode is that Janet is lying about herself, essentially. She's lying to herself about how she feels about Jason. And because Jason is now with Tahani, because they don't remember being together, she now sort of is glitching and causing weird, hilarious stuff like vomiting coins.
Yeah, the vomiting coins is not the best one of those ones, but I did like it.
But yeah, and that's where you did say, that's when you mentioned good props. I do remember the prop, an ostrich steak impaled on a giant novelty pencil that says, Lordy, Lordy, I'm over 40.
Yeah.
That's a good prop.
No, the props department of this show, I think, have a lot of fun. Even when they're only getting cacti.
Yeah.
But that's next series, so we'll talk about that then.
But yeah, but this one, so Janet, what's nice is that once they work out what's going on and what's causing Janet's glitches, Janet's current solution to the whole situation is to self-destruct. And we said that last time, is that the self-destruction is you put a paperclip into a hole behind Janet's ear while touching her nose. And that's shown in this one to be kind of like a final solution, permanently gets rid of Janet sort of thing. But later is kind of changed into be a more non-permanent thing in Season 3. But in this one, it seems to be a more, like, always around thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's also nice about it is it fills in everything about Janet and Michael. It fills in, like, how they sort of got together. And, like, with only a few flashbacks, it does show, like, some really nice stuff. Like, how it was Janet's idea to give everyone, for everything to be frozen yogurt.
And I do agree that actually, when it is like, what's the thing you think you like, but is actually really crappy? Yeah, frozen yogurt.
Well, yeah.
There's a reason that never really took off in the UK, I think.
Because it's ice cream, but without the texture of ice cream.
Yeah, it's ice cream, but it feels like it's just slime because there's no aeration in it.
Yeah. Although I am the sort of person who doesn't like soft serve, so as far as I'm concerned, frozen yogurt basically just tastes like soft serve.
Really?
With a different amount of sugar in it. Yeah.
Ah, well.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I'm just saying, like, I also don't like soft serve for that same reason. So in a way, frozen yogurt does taste kind of like ice cream to me.
I like soft serve. I always like, the cones where you get it and, yeah.
Of course.
That's nice. I would have liked a machine of that, I think.
But yeah, so it's basically just a good episode where we just learn about them, and everyone every other character sort of turns up to say hi and disappear, including Cheaty with some. I'm always unsure. I assume that's makeup effect that sort of makes him look like Pinhead. And
what, the acupuncture needles?
All the needles, and I do like how it's like Eleanor will finally help, because eventually, when it gets brought up about the self-destruct, Michael eventually says, the reason is because you're my friend and I can't just get rid of you and have a Janet that you don't want to know. And Janet's like really touched and feels nice, but it doesn't change her mind. Yeah. Like, she still says, you still have to kill me.
Yeah, I do like that. It's really nice. And I always like that it is a bit annoying. I don't know, maybe it's partially just because we watch a lot of anime or play anime-themed games in our lives, but I hate the power of friendship. I fucking hate it. Because the situation doesn't change when it's your mate rather than some random. Like, if it's a case of, say you woke up in a Saw game scenario, and it's just like, you've got to murder one of the two people in the room has to die before the door opens. It's like, well, if it was a random, that would be one thing, but we're both friends, so the power of friendship means there's an entirely third way out over here. Not me dying or you dying, we're just going to go out the other door. It's like, no, that isn't how things work, So yes, it always annoys me. It would have annoyed me if he said, right, the only solution here is this, and then they went, well, actually, we're friends.
You say that, but that's
just going to pretend that... No, I'm aware it is that they find another solution.
Well, no, not that they find another solution through the power of friendship, because I think, it's actually with Eleanor of working out stuff, which is what I like. It's just like, basically him telling Janet for the first time that she's his friend, and that changes the whole thing, and her being appreciative of that doesn't magically make her decision to self-destruct to protect everyone change. That's what I thought about it. I can understand your dislike of the power of friendship. I understand what you mean, but that is kind of interesting considering in the next few episodes the power of friendship is entirely how they manage to save themselves.
You see, I don't think that's the power of friendship, because what annoys me with the power of friendship is when...
By the way, then should we explain it if you want to talk about that?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay, so not the next episode, but the episode after that.
Because we still have to talk about Derek. The Derek in the room is Derek.
Yeah, Derek. So this is after Derek, which we'll talk about in a bit. But
Derek!
Sean turns up again and basically says, well, it's all good. We'll have to put this into our rotation of the kinds of tortures we do, but that means we're shutting it down as an experiment. These 4 humans get taken away to be regular bad place tortured. And Michael says, well, let's have a party
first.
They
get dissected.
Or they get dissected, basically.
They don't even get bad place tortured. They just get, every atom of them combed over to make sure they know exactly why it worked on them.
Exactly. Yeah, so it wasn't going to be good fun for them. Michael suggests they have a party, and at that point, Eleanor kind of convinces everyone to still trust Michael and think that he's pretending to help Sean and saying that he's actually left them clues in what he's doing. And because they trust him, or because they take, as it says in the episode title, a leap into faith, they're able to find a way to get out. So we might go deeper into that, but why do you think that's not the power of friendship? Because that's literally them saying, no, Michael's our friend, he's left something for us, we're going to take these things, little changes in how he's talked about stuff over the thing, take them as clues in order to escape being sent to be dissected.
Because it's the thing is, the power of friendship, as I'm calling it, is not the trust exercise, which is what happens here. It's basically a case of, with this, it's, no, I trust him, I believe in him. I mean, it's essentially that whole, I'm going to trust you. I don't have a problem with that. And them being friends and deciding to trust him is what works.
Yeah, but to me, that sounds like exactly what the power of friendship is, because don't you trust your friends?
The power of friendship is always... The bullshit power of friendship is that...
Are you thinking of basically when Yugi, in the first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh!, needs to draw the right card, and he looks at his friendship symbol, he draws the correct card.
That. It's things like, I'm sorry, the random number generator prefers me because I have friends, or... oh no, I'm going to swing my sword, but I swing my sword slightly harder or faster or better than before because I have friends. You know, it's that sort of, there is something about the world which will bend over backwards and twist around so that I get an advantage because I have friendship.
Yeah,
It's
I always
that
think
sort of nonsense.
that's bad. But to me, that
annoys
is not
me.
the power of friendship. To me, that's just pulling it out your arse.
Yes, no, it is. It's pulling it out of your ass and blaming it on friendship. But no, I would say...
Pulling it
the
out of
power
your arse and
friendship-
blaming it on friendship again. Always have lube to do that. Don't mess around. You cause serious problem.
Also, it's a very different type of friendship than my definition
Yeah.
of friendship. I would say that should be within the bounds of a, established relationship with
I agree.
boundaries
Yeah,
and
boundaries are
maybe
a safe
word.
Yeah.
But moving past this into friendship. No,
So
I
yes,
think
so anyway,
I
back
don't
onto-
have a problem
oh, go on.
if your friendship fixes your problems because you're like, if you're taking anything like, oh, actually, it's you and I have been friends for quite a number of years now, and actually, you know those stupid like the Mr. and Mrs. or the Newlywed Game or whatever, like where people ask you what was your person's response. Now, you and I winning that compared to me and some guy off the street playing, that is technically the power of friendship, isn't that? It is the power of friendship is basically the ability to trust someone, know someone about their personality, their skills, and that sort of thing. But it's not exactly. It's not magic. As soon as it's magic, that's when I call bullshit.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, that's basically the difference.
Well, do you think isn't that a good example of what good writing is and bad writing is in fiction? Because a good use of the idea of the power of friendship is, what does it do? Well, it informs the motivation of your characters. Whereas bad, as you say, bullshit, pull it out your arse, power of friendship is essentially a facilitation of narrative magic because you've written yourself into a corner.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on from that, I guess. So yeah, like I said, Janet and Michael is the birth of their power of friendship, but also the birth of Derek. Derek, who is my favourite character in all of the Good Place. And Derek is.
I have mixed feelings.
Oh, I can
about
totally
Derek.
understand. Yeah, I totally think Derek is not for everyone. I just want to make sure. Yeah, Derek, of course, played by Jason Mantzoukas, a character actor who's done a lot of stuff over the thing, but he is kind of in the realm of TV. He plays very similar characters. He's mentioned this when he's been interviewed. He's sort of like, I play like the scary homeless person.
Yeah, and the thing is, right, I feel about him in the same way I felt about him when he was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which, is another fantastic show done by a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
But the thing with this is, he plays a character who's very similar, who is the creepy, kind of scary, very much off normality guy who is usually romantically involved with one of the female leads for a short period of time. And
But only
it's
really in
everyone
this
else.
and Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Well, I know, but they're the only two things I can remember him being in.
Yeah.
I think I've seen him in one or two other things, but generally playing the same thing. But it's just this thing of, in both cases, it's that, and it is a case where he's very, very good at being someone who's genuinely kind of annoying and frustrating, and you would feel that the character you like, the female character he's dating, really shouldn't be with someone this weird and creepy.
Yeah, but it gets sorted out pretty much in one episode. That's why I like him.
That's fine.
He doesn't have time to get.
I don't have a problem with that. It's just, like I say, my mixed feelings about Derek are basically that it's that thing of, when someone's like, this is an irritating noise. Yes, it's designed to be irritating, and it is very well done that noise was in fact irritating. Doesn't stop it being irritating. The fact that he's very well acted a very irritating character. Doesn't stop the character being irritating, and it does mean it's amusing, but at the same time it's amusing because he's so frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I would say he's way more interesting when he returns when they're escaping, because he just says, Derek.
Derek. Yes, that's why for the first part of this episode I have just been saying Derek every now and then for no real reason.
I just love how intense he is in the whole thing and like deliberately weird. Like he appears in the other way, and he's got his own weird noise. He's got like a lower version of the blum noise that Janet has, and he even has his own reset button at the end when they have their confrontation, and his just looks crap.
Yeah, this is like a makeshift, out the back of a skip sort of pieced together one, isn't it?
But yeah, he's basically just a boyfriend that Janet makes, and he's clearly a bad idea because he keeps turning up, doing weird things, and he'll completely throw the whole ruse that the humans don't know that they're in the bad place to all the other demons, so they have to get rid of him. And they basically just do it by making sure that Janet properly gets over the problem that she had in the previous episode.
Yeah, the Jason thing.
So after we got to that point, and everyone it started to feel like, hey, things are moving forward, and that's what is this what the story is just going to be? They're just going to be pretending now, in a way. Last one was last season. It's like we've got to figure out why you're here, and in the meantime, pretend like you belong here. Now it's like now you've got to pretend like you're pretending that you belong here, but you actually know, and now you're trying to get out. Immediately, Sean turns up and says, "Nope, it's over."
And once again, this show is switching entirely the
whole premise. The whole premise is
exactly,
just dropped and says, "Yep, we're not doing that no more. It's good enough."
But I was actually talking to my wife about this, and we were talking about how. Do you think the guy that sort of does this, because this show was made after like Parks and Rec and Brooklyn Nine-Nine were both pretty big successes, you'd hope that the creator had quite a bit of trust from the studio, but actually. Like turning up every now and then and just going, yeah. So we're throwing out our old premise and we're going with an entirely new direction again. And they're like, right, okay, we can kind of be on board with that. And he's like, oh, and part of this is that we are going to remove all the sets that we currently use. You know how it's gotten a lot cheaper this series because you didn't have to build all the sets again? Well, we're not going to use them anymore because we're literally going to leave the neighborhood, never come back. So the house with the clowns, the office that Michael has, all of that stuff, never in it ever again.
Except it is. It does come back next season. But yeah, from this point on in this season, we never go back to the neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, it's barely there in the neighborhood next season. I mean,
they have a flashback maybe, episode. But... I just say I always notice that because it's like, oh, you're going back to do stuff in the neighborhood where you don't have scarcity, or you don't have to wonder where they get all these weird things from anymore because it's the afterlife.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that's what happens. And like we said, as we said before, when we were talking about the power of friendship, there's all that. Now, here's a thing that I am a bit weird on that episode. This episode that I think it becomes immediately after Derek, doesn't it? Yeah, it's Derek, Leap to Faith. Now, the thing with this is I think it kind of contradicts or makes a few big jumps that don't ruin it for me, but they just seem a bit sloppy compared to how they usually do it. Because first of all, it's like, oh, I bet you think Janet can help you. Well, no, we've got her drunk on magnets. And it's like, okay, but then when they need to do something that only Janet can do, Janet can still do it. Janet can still call a train, and...
No, they get Derek for that.
Oh, yeah, they still get Derek to yeah, that's true. Does Derek call the train? I thought he just drove it.
The train's already there, because the train is waiting for them to leave in the morning.
Okay, but still...
The train is there waiting, and...
That was just a minor one.
She can't drive it.
No, she can't drive it.
Derek to drive it.
Yeah, they have to get Derek to drive it, but they still have to get Janet to get Derek out...
Of the void.
And I always thought, well, if Janet could bring things out of her void, that does seem like a pretty big thing to still be able to do.
I know what you mean, I do, but actually it is a thing of the void doesn't necessarily have anything else in it apart from normally Janet and Janet stuff.
That's true, so of course Dennis would just be there, and that's true, probably the only thing in the void, unless she needs to conjure it.
Because she's conjuring new things from nowhere is a thing
that she probably can't do.
She can't do with the magnets on. But actually, her being able to go to her void, it is a bit of a, why can she go to her void and back? But actually...
I don't think
it doesn't break. I mean,
it doesn't break my thing. I just always think it to bring it up because when you're thinking about it, it's like, why is that okay and not the other one?
Yeah. There's a couple of those. Like, there is that, and there's also maybe I always feel a little bit like I think it would have been nice if the Janet falling in love with Jason thing was the she got her memory back of those times, or that she connected with him recently and wasn't reset or something like that. I don't really like the whole you fell in love with him 800 reboots ago once, like the very first time.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it's just been building up in the background the whole time, and
well, probably
you sort of feel it without having any memory of it.
Well, that's because she's got more. The thing with that is because she's gotten more advanced, which is what they kind of said very early on.
Which is fine. I don't have a problem with her becoming more advanced, but I think that she should have become more advanced so that she can keep her memory between reboots, or at least is trying to, like, being able to piece it together.
Yeah.
And I think that would have worked for why she's in love with Jason, because she does kind of become in love with Jason because the plot wants her to be. Really.
Yeah, because it's a thing to bring up, but at least it's still referencing something that happened in the past.
Oh, no, it still happened, but I just think it's always nicer if she remembered the past rather than the past has this. Again, it's the magic of love instead of the magic of friendship. You know, I'm for love. I'm pro-love. I'm, not going to say it's not a really good thing, but at the same time, I do feel like it kind of is a thing that doesn't exist outside memory, It's not a magic. And when it is treated like magic, like she can just be in love with him despite not knowing why or feeling anything about it, it's much the same bullshit as, like, if you're in a magic show or something.
The thing with that is I'm generally fine with it because it's causing problems to the main characters, and I'm often capable of hand-waving stuff. Well, another one that always got me was, why does hiding behind the train work? Is it just because the train's at the edge of the neighbourhood? Is that why?
Yeah, I think that this is the thing. Like, she does scan the whole neighborhood, but yeah, you're right. When they do the top-down, like, map of the neighborhood, the train is at the bottom, and outside beyond the train is nothing. So actually, it could just be, well, she'll stand at the train and she'll scan everything except directly behind her. But yeah, it is this thing of, I suppose you could say it's because it's not her neighborhood. Whereas the other Janet, it's her neighborhood. She knows everything about everything in it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the other Janet will have to active scan. But yeah, you would have thought if she couldn't just do like a 360 scan, why does she have to like...
Yeah. It's also nice because the
barcode beam.
Bad Place always seemed to have like massive advantage. So it's like nice to have something that they just couldn't do for once.
Yeah.
I think they built up enough like angry pathos for us to go, oh, good.
Yeah.
So that means we move straight on into The Bad Place. So we actually get to see a bit of The Bad Place. We get to see, of all people, Tahani really being kind of amazing with an American accent.
Yeah.
And also, I just like the stuff that gets brought up about how The Bad Place works. Like, you kind of got an influence in the first episode when the Bad Place people turned up. But yeah, The Bad Place is like full of bad people. And I always find it kind of weird that they are sort of bad people, but they also have, what's the word? They also have like this moral indignation at how humans act bad as well. So it's kind of cartoony and kind of fun. So they're sort of like, yeah, we've got to be horrible to these nasty humans doing all this horrible stuff, and we've got museums to all of their dickish actions. But hey, axe up! It smells the way Transformers movies make you feel.
I did love that one. No, I do think the problem I have with the demons is partially, yeah, they're really judgmental about the way that humans behave, whilst at the same time behaving exactly like the way that they're judgmental about behaving. Mm-hmm. So, the hypocrisy is a bit odd, but at the same time, I think it's because we've only seen like the demons like Michael and everything. You don't get like the bro mentality sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
well, there are all sorts of different ones, but yeah, there are some bro-y demons. Yeah. There's even like I'm in the place of toxic masculinity.
Yeah. And it's a case of it's also a bit like the bad Janet thing of the bad Janet doesn't help, but does do what is always a dick about it, but does what you ask.
Does what the demons ask of her.
Yeah, like it seems it is like that, but it is sort of.
I think it's more of like a joke, isn't it? Because you get introduced to Janet first, and then they sort of. It was more of a joke that started off in the first episode. They even have their own bad Janet who doesn't do anything useful.
Yeah. But actually, she is kind of still required to run things, so she does actually do it. She just doesn't act like she's doing anything useful.
Yeah. And was it because they go to the big show where it was revealed, hey, look at these humans and all the horrible things they did, that then all of a sudden, what's the word? There's like all these other people of like first things they did, first people to send an unsolicited dick pic and stuff like that. But then there's also the finger food in like the big celebration. It's like, we've got Hawaiian pizza and bagels from a certain part. It's all an American joke. So it's sort of like, I assume these are all places where you get a bad bagel. I assume this is a place.
Yeah, there was a few ones where I think my lack of being American slightly impacted the thing. Like the joke about how what about the neutral place? Well, the neutral place between the good place and the bad place, all that has is like the accounting department and the judge and the janitor warehouse and an IHOP. And again, that would be hilarious if it was like a Subway, because in the UK, yeah, there are Subways like literally everywhere around every corner and every street. Or, a coffee shop. Again, we have, all of the coffee places around there. But do you know what we don't have? I don't think there's an IHOP in the country, is there?
No, there isn't an IHOP. For us,
yeah.
I mean, it's not as prevalent. I don't think there's anything as prevalent. Maybe Pizza Express?
I don't know. There's a few of those, but there's not that many. Well. Anyway, yeah, it is just this thing of a few jokes are for Americans, and actually, Cheaty isn't American. He's lived in Australia, and he was born.
He was born in Nigeria and grew up in Senegal.
Yeah, exactly. So it is this thing of like, yes, you've got a British person, a Floridian, a let's just say Australian for the adult life and knowing what shops are around, and then. Where's Eleanor from again?
Where's who?
The States, anyway.
Eleanor's from the States. Yeah, Jason's from the States. Tahani's from, again, was
so only
like born in
50%
Pakistan,
of them would get
educated
that whole,
in the UK.
Yeah. But only 50% of them would really know the American thing. Anyway, it's just...
Well, no decision hinged on that. I know about the International House of Pancakes, by the way. I mean, I have been to America, and I have been to IHOP.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it is awful. It is the sort of place that you'd expect to be in, like a boring, neutral place. But yeah, and then from there, it's sort of like a lot of jokes on, we're in the bad place, everyone's bad. There is one thing I think that is brought up that hasn't come around, and I'm still thinking in my like crazy fan fiction brain that this will be brought up. Is that Cheaty essentially explains what he did to Eleanor to make her better to the demons as a mode of torture. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder if that's going to turn up again. It's like, you told demons the thing that you did to Eleanor that made Eleanor better, and now everyone's better. This is messed up.
Oh, you mean that could actually be the sort of final solution to this?
It's like you end up in the bad place, but then you have to like learn to become a better person in the bad place. It's not like a torture place.
Well, do you know what? There's actually if you want to get into like prison discussions and everything.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Actually, yeah, it is this thing of what are prisons for? Like, are they a punishment or are they an attempt to rehabilitate people? Because if it's the second option, then yeah, actually hell would be much the same in that, okay, so essentially if there is an afterlife, well, either you're good enough and you go straight into the afterlife, or you need to take remedial classes, because we don't want people who are just horrible people in the afterlife, and that's you. So go and take your remedial classes on ethics, philosophy, and like part of the thing with Eleanor is, I always remember in the first series, there's that moment when she's trying to decide on what frozen yogurt she wants, and she's thinking she's going to be there a while, so she automatically, without thinking about it, goes, oh no, you go before me, because I might be a while to decide. And that's the first time she sort of acted unselfishly in her entire adult life that she can remember. And she runs back and goes, oh my god, I've like ingrained this stuff into my subconscious now that I'm actually doing it. And actually, yeah, you could do that. You could train people and teach them all this stuff, and when eventually they're basically moral philosophy brains are making them behave ethically regardless, and they're not horrible people, that's when you let them into proper heaven.
Exactly.
Hooray.
Yeah.
Or reincarnation, or whatever the hell you want to do. But yeah, no, it would be quite nice if that came up, that the guy did try to do that, and it turns out that entire department of he wasn't in toxic masculinity, was he?
Yeah, I think that's what he says. Yeah, I'm in toxic masculinity.
Yeah. No, his mate was in toxic masculinity.
Oh, right, you're right. Yes, yeah.
I don't know what department the guy was who was being tortured, but if it was, it'd be quite nice, because toxic masculinity could probably do with an awful lot of moral philosophy books.
I completely agree on that one, certainly.
Yeah. So, do we have time for the judge and the neutral zone, or do you need to push this to another one?
No, I think we could get through the judge, because it's just sort of 2 episodes, and it's like... It's just, they turn up the judge. The judge is kind of fun and interesting. She's kind of different. She seems a lot nicer than she ends up being in season 3. And,
yeah. The thing about the judge, though, I mean, we would probably praise the casting of this show quite highly. I certainly would. But, I don't know, the judge has never felt like the best character to me.
I don't think she needs to be.
I think they could have done a lot more. I think they could have done a lot more with it, though, than they did.
Do you think so?
I do, but I also... So this is an interesting conversation I was having whilst I was watching it for the second time, in that... So the judge gives them all a test in order to see if they've improved enough to go to the good place. And each of the tests is very... I always think it's quite interesting, because it is a case of... Each of the tests is something that any person who isn't the recipient of the test would pass without any issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, all you'd need to do is to hear what the test is, and you'd pass it straight away. But because they're so well tailored to the 4 people in question, they do all fail except Eleanor. And actually, I think it's really telling that the whole argument that Michael is having and that Eleanor is having is that actually they deserve to go to the good place because they've improved, because they've become better people. But I really don't think they have. It's only Eleanor and Michael that have changed, and Janet as well, but it's not quite the same. But Eleanor and Michael have grown and become better people and are actually probably deserving of a second chance. But the thing is, if Chidi did deserve to go to the bad place before, he still does. He's the same person. Helping Eleanor and trying to help her better herself is something he'd have done the day 1 of the good place, as well as something he does thousands of years after.
Yep.
You know, he's always going to be the same. In the same way, Tahani, she is... So her test is to go down a corridor where people are talking about her, and she'll hear what they really think of her. And she passes a lot more doors than the judge's expectation would be, but she still can't go past her parents without wanting to know what they actually talk about and what they really believe about her. And I think she'd still have done that. You know, if you gave her all those doors, she might have grown a little, in that she might have gone past a few more doors, but again, it's just this thing of she hasn't really grown, Jason hasn't really grown, and Chidi hasn't really grown. It's only, if you wanted to be objective about it, Eleanor is the only one who really deserves a second chance.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. It is a bit sort of... I don't know, I think Tahani may have grown, but yeah, certainly it seems that Chidi hasn't grown past the thing that got him in the bad place in the first... to begin with. From the perspective of that episode right then, because we all know things keep changing all the time. But yeah, from that perspective, the only person who's really changed is Eleanor and Michael. And really the other two still have a problem. But I think one of the people that it is shown, like, how could she avoid that, is Tahani. Because the whole thing about her negative self-image and the reason why she acted in that sort of non-positive way was because of the weight that her parents put on her. And also, not just the weighted expectations, but the expectations that she would always be second best to her sister. Like, you see it in a lot of other flashbacks, that there's like, they just expect that, yeah, she's not going to do well.
But the thing is, I think that Tahani hasn't grown as a person in terms of growth. She has become self-aware of her problem.
Yeah.
That is it. But that is basically, Tahani has grown enough to accept why she's in the bad place, but she hasn't gotten better. She's just become aware of it. Eleanor was aware from day 1 why she doesn't deserve to be in the good place. If you look at them, so Eleanor knows she's a fraud and is aware that she shouldn't be there, and they have to tell her she's wrong, there's been a mistake, in order for her to believe she's, miraculously ended up in heaven. Whereas Chiti and Tahani both accept that they should be there, that they deserve it. And actually, even when you tell them why they don't, it is a case of they go, oh yeah, I can kind of see what you mean. But that doesn't change anything. They don't do anything to try and fix it. They might try and be better, but they don't change, apart from being now aware of what their problem is. But realistically speaking, they probably should have been aware of it in the first place. Hell, Chiti dies the day his best friend is telling him that this is the reason you go to the bad place. It's the reason no one can really be friends with you or in a relationship with you.
You are completely right, yeah.
So I just don't think, apart from being self-aware, Tahani and Chiti do not grow. They just know why they're there, and they've come to terms with that. Jason, he's just... I hate to be mean to people who have low IQ on anything, but Jason, the thing he's meant to have learned, his test is impulse control, in that he's meant to actually... He gets shown, here's a TV with Madden on it, but you can only play as the team that's the main rivals of the Jaguars against the Jaguars.
Well, we never really find out what his actual test is.
Well, that's the point, is because she doesn't explain it. He just immediately sees it, sits down, starts playing. And it's a case of, again, if you would just listen to what the test was, you'd have gone, so your test is to what? Well, your test was really to listen to my complete sentence.
Yeah.
And then not play the game. Your test is to not play that. Oh, okay, I guess we'll go then.
Exactly, yeah.
But again, he hasn't changed or grown. He's not even self-aware like the other ones were. Because again, they trick him into thinking he's in the good place. But actually, even if you didn't do that, he's not self-aware enough to even know. Like, Eleanor is aware she's not meant to be there. But they seem to believe Jason is as well, in that they tell him he's a monk and he should be silent. But all that does is give him an excuse because he's not sure what's going on and he doesn't really know what to do in this scenario.
Yeah, but I think...
They just buy him time. I'm just saying that Jason he doesn't grow either. He's not self-aware. He's exactly the same thing.
I don't know. I think he does eventually. He certainly does as we move on to the next season. But yeah, but speaking of that, the last episode is essentially setting up the next season thing where everyone's back alive on Earth with no memories of the afterlife, in order to make it so that, they're doing good things to be good people, because that's what Michael is betting on, that they actually want to be good people.
Yeah, I think...
Do you think that's a solid idea from Michael, or do you think it's doomed to failure?
Well, the thing is, I think the idea is interesting, but I do think this is actually really... Oh, we could talk for the whole fucking episode on this, because actually, it's really interesting, the philosophy of the good place versus the philosophy of us. Like, I decided many, many years ago what my beliefs around this are. See, I believe that you are still the same person and that you can't change. But you can't... It's not like I'm saying people don't change, but it is. I think that people change, but they're still the same person. If you think about, you yourself 10 years ago, and you think, have you changed? And you think, well, no, I've definitely changed, but I'm still me at the core. And other people are like that. I think, personally, my belief system is that Eleanor has always been Eleanor at her core. She's just a slightly different variation of herself. But actually, it's whether or not you believe that core is worth going to the bad place or the good place is really the question. Whereas Michael thinks that sort of everyone is redeemable or can change over time. That's sort of the idea the good place is putting forward. But actually, what's being demonstrated in episode 1 is that... the episode 12, the last episode, is that if you put people in the same scenario, they're going to just revert back to themselves.
Are you sure about that? Because the whole point there is having their near-death experience sorts it all out for them.
No, it isn't. The whole thing of that is the near-death experience basically gives her a kick and shunts her off the rails she's on. And then, after a while, she slowly drifts back, and she'd have ended up exactly on the same rails. By a year later, she is exactly the same as she was before the near-death experience.
Yeah, but you know the reason why, though.
Well, the reason why is she's drifted back to who she was.
No. What's the reason why? Why is she acting
like there's a big thing?
Yeah, it is, because doing things is hard. But being a good person is difficult. That's the reason.
Well, yeah, and she goes back because it was too hard for her to do before, so it's too hard to do now. She can't keep up with it. The thing that the whole show is basically predicated here on that you're capable of change, but you're not capable of change on your own. Because when she's kept in the same situation and she's given a second chance and even a push at the beginning to go towards the positive end that she's meant to be going towards, she can't keep it up. She ends up being surrounded by the same people doing the same thing. And even when she tries to go and surround herself with the, the environmental warrior people, like if it was just Chiti is a good person and if she'd surrounded herself with good people, she'd have been all right. Going to the environmental place instead would have been basically a surrogate Chiti. But it's not. The only thing that makes her better and stays better about her is when you give this one specific person to her, or at least maybe more options, but that's like, you need to introduce a new element, and even then it has to be a very specific, strong new element to actually get any change out of her at all.
I don't think that's true. I think that's true about everyone. I think the whole focus of this is that, The Good Place, is that change is hard, that it's hard to change yourself and make yourself better, but it's also because the world is difficult, and also I think they're also trying to grapple with the idea of how much does a single individual need to do or need to change their life in order to be considered a good person.
Well, that's really about... So, Series 1 is all this and Series 2 is all that, but Series 3 is really themed around, what does it take? So far anyway, we haven't quite finished it, but what actually is a good person in the end?
Yeah, what counts as being a good person?
What counts? And in this, it is a case of...
Because I would say that Eleanor,
the premise of this
by that point,
is that you count and accept that all four of them are not good people. But then Eleanor at the end, I would argue, has maybe moved towards the end of good person. Yeah. But that only is if you accept the premise that all four of them were bad in the first place.
I would say all four of them weren't amazing in the first place, but I would be of the opinion that none of them has ever done anything that bad.
Again, it's an interesting argument about if there is sort of this binary system, obviously excluding the one person who went to the medium place, but if there's a binary system of perfect heaven, soulmates and happiness, or eternal torture and suffering, like, where is the bloody line? Because you've got to think, if there is a line, and if it's a binary system, it is just weird that, like, oh, do you remember that guy when you gave that homeless person £1? If you'd given them £1.20, you'd have been in the good place because you'd have got 0.00024 points extra for that act. And it is that's the difference between eyeball gouging for eternity or soulmates and happiness. And it is a case of, if you're going to have a system based on points, you need tiers. You need, like, the great place, the good place, the okay place, the medium place, the, it kind of sucks place, the kind of irritating place, and the, oh my god, it's horrendous in here place. Because actually, Chiti is a bit of a nightmare, but at the same time, he doesn't deserve endless infinity eye gouging.
Exactly, yeah. Because that's the thing. It's like, I do think, not in terms of theme, but in terms of this whole thing, is the idea of you're either good enough to be permanently rewarded or good enough to be permanently punished is a dumb idea.
Oh no, it is absolutely a stupid idea, which I guess when we do this for season 3 we'll talk about more at length.
Yeah. But it's been renewed for another season, so I don't think it's going to end.
Really?
Yeah.
This is the thing. Again, another one I liked about The Good Place is that it's never lowered its quality. There isn't a time, like, we've watched several series where you just kind of go, oh, it was a bit of a struggle between episodes 12 and 17 because there was that arc that was a bit crap. But I don't feel like The Good Place has ever had a downer bit, which just has been lower quality. And I just think, though, a lot of series have kept going too long to the point where they've crashed and burned. And I really hope they're not going to do that, because I actually thought this could end quite nicely in Series 2 when I was watching Series 2. And then I'm now watching Series 3 and going, no, I'm glad they didn't. They've got still quite a lot of ideas. They're doing them well, and it's really quite well done. And then you tell me now there's a Series 4, and I sort of go, I'm just starting to feel like they don't need one, though. Like, they could have ended it after 2. They could have ended it after 3. And are they going to end it at 4? Because eventually you're going to have to run out of ideas.
Exactly, yeah. I am worried about how they're going to manage it. But I guess that's something for the next Good Place episode we do. So thank you very much for listening to us chat a bit meanderingly about The Good Place again.
And if there's one thing you should take away from this entire thing, it's this. Derek!
Derek!